Welcome, everybody, to another episode of We All Grieve. I'm your host, Kay Rogers, and I'm joined this week by a very special guest, the one, the only, Pam Rogers. Hi, babe.
Hi, honey.
Pam is my wife. She's also known as the boss.
The boss, that's right.
The boss. So we're going to call her that throughout this entire episode, so then I'm in huge trouble when we're done. So in this episode, I thought, babe, what we could do is we kind of talk about a little bit about maybe some of the loss that we've gone through in our lives. I know we've already talked about, we lost our son, Nicholas. That was 10 years ago, a little more than 10 years ago. But I think it'd be kind of interesting if we kind of share the timeline of some other losses that maybe we went through. Yours started actually very young for you when you lost your brother, Jeff.
Yes, I was 24 when I lost Jeff. Yeah.
And so when you, I guess maybe you were 24, you were super pregnant with Aaron, right?
Yeah, I had Aaron September 15th and Jeff was killed on August 26th.
Yeah, so you were super pregnant, probably super emotional, and then you go through a tragedy like that. Do you remember the night that they called to tell you that, or did somebody come to the house, or how'd that go?
Well, my first husband and I lived in my mom's basement at the time. And I was asleep and I heard my mom answer the phone. I could hear her phone ringing and she answered it and I heard her screaming. So I ran upstairs to see what was going on and that's when she told me.
And so I'm sure that just kind of put your head spinning in a kind of a crazy way, right, with everything going on?
Yeah, I think I just kind of immediately turned numb. I don't really remember a whole lot of it. I do remember that it was Jill that called my mom, which was Jeff's wife.
Okay.
And then the police came to the door a little bit later to tell Mom, and I said that she already knew, and that they said, well, we just have to say that we were here. And so I'm like, well, we're good. So I went and talked to my mom and told her the police were here, and she didn't want to see them. So I just let them leave.
So your mom didn't want to see the police? Why?
Because she already knew.
Oh, so they were there to inform her.
Yeah, she was. They were there to inform her, and Jill had already called, so she already knew. So there was no reason to have them say it all over again.
I'm losing my headphones. Hang on, my right ear keeps going dead. Anyway, so and just for the audience's sake, we did interview Jill in episode number 21, and we talked to her about losing her husband and your brother Jeff. I felt it was a really good, candid interview from her perspective. I think she got to share some things that she probably never was able to share before.
Yeah, that was a great interview. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, it probably gave you guys some insight that you probably didn't have
It
before.
did, yeah. There was a couple of things that I didn't really know.
Yeah, it kind of makes it a little different, doesn't it?
Yeah, to see her side.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and when I was talking with the boys about losing Nicholas and hearing things from their perspective, it really gave me some insight to things that, well, one, I didn't remember.
Right.
I mean, that was a big thing. And then two, just kind of what their viewpoint on things were and how they saw things. And you could say in some instances it was different.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. The things that Jill remembered are way different than what I remember. We remember things the same, but just slightly different memories.
And so going past that, and I don't mean like you got past the loss because you don't in a loss like that, but going forward in your life, do you think that impacted your thought process going forward, like with your marriage or your how you're raising the kids and all that kind of stuff?
When Jeff died, I wasn't in a great marriage. It wasn't a good one at all. And then so when Aaron was about a year and 3-4 months, that's when I finally had the courage to end my divorce. And had Jeff not died, I don't know if I would have. I would have stuck it out, I think, until the kids were older. But I think when he died, it made me realize that life is too short. I didn't want to be miserable. And if, being on my own was what was going to make me happy with my kids, and that's what I wanted to do. I mean, it was hard. It was a hard decision to do. Mm-hmm. But, in the end, it was the best decision for myself and for Brittany and Aaron.
And so you ended your marriage, went through divorce. And you were divorced for how long before we met?
Aaron was 9 when we met.
And how old was he when you got divorced?
No, Aaron was
7.
Yeah, so 5 years.
Okay, so quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I got to be the lucky guy.
You're the lucky one.
Yeah, I did.
So sorry for that.
Stole you from another guy and married you.
You did.
That's how that works. Watch out, fellas. I'm taken, ladies. You can't have me.
Can't have him.
Yeah. Pam would tell you if you could put up my array of bullshit, you could have me, but I don't know if she believes that.
Well, you know.
Yeah, I like that joke she told me earlier. Do you have that with you?
No, I don't have it with me.
Oh, shoot, that was really funny. Anyway, so we met and, fell in love, did all our things, got married. Our kids were, 11, 7, 5, 2, and then you were pregnant with Chloe. Mm-hmm. And then we had Chloe, obviously.
Mm-hmm. In 2002.
2002. And then, we had, it was just craziness, but it was fun. We had a lot of fun and happiness. And, over the years, we just made all kinds of crazy memories. And then in 2010, as we've talked about, on June 22nd, our son Nicholas was pronounced. We lost him a couple days earlier to an asthma attack. And then, we went through our crazy trials and tribulations after that. Life was at best hard and miserable, really, for the most part, I think. Neither one of us were grieving well.
We did not grieve well together.
No. We kind of grieved in two different ways.
Yeah, we did.
And I don't mean because everybody grieves differently. We grieved in two different directions.
Yes.
And those two different directions weren't together. They were apart, right? But then after Nick died in 2010, then we lost our father-in-law.
Yeah, my stepdad.
Or your
Dennis.
stepdad, my father-in-law, in December or January of 2011.
I thought it was March. I probably should know that.
Well, okay, so back up. He had his incident in either December or January.
When I say it was January, and then I think he died in March.
We let him go in March.
Right, yeah.
And then, and that was craziness.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he in that, what's that place he was at?
Well, he was in that long-term care facility. I'm not going to say the name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was in a long-term care facility. But even before that, they had him up in the ICU, and then we had the whole thing where there was a DNR, but then we did some rescue things and kind of kept him going for a while, and then he kept kind of recovered, but was never expected to fully recover. And
it was definitely like a 3-step forward, 2-step back type situation the whole time.
Yeah, because every time it seems like something good would go, then it was just another episode that just finally in March, it was just too much, and he finally passed away. And then, so we went through that, and then a year later.
Who are you talking about?
Wasn't it my dad that passed away next?
Your dad has been gone 6 years in December, so it'd be 14.
And that was in 11, so 3 years later.
Yeah.
Then my dad unexpectedly got sick. He was 80 and in great health. We celebrated his 80th birthday, and he just all of a sudden started losing weight like crazy and couldn't eat anything. And this went on for 6 months, 5 months. And they finally put him in the hospital because he'd lost so much weight, put him on a feeding tube, and then found out that he had esophageal cancer and that it had metastasized everywhere. And then they sent him home on hospice, and he made it 15 days.
Was it 15 days?
It was 15 days, yeah. And then he passed on the 18th of December.
December 9th.
Or 9th, I'm sorry, yeah, you're right, December 9th. So that was quick. Once we found out what was wrong with him.
Yeah.
So that was in 14.
And then fast forward to March of 15. On March 9th, my mom died at 69 years old.
Yeah, and that kind of was a little bit of a process too, wasn't it?
Yeah, I remember her and her boyfriend were coming home from Arizona, and they stopped in Kansas because she got really sick. And then I don't remember how many days she was there, but she was in the hospital there for a few days. Then she came home and still wasn't feeling the greatest. And then back then I worked for Tractor Supply, and my sister's called me during a meeting and said that Mom was in ICU and that I needed to come home. And it was probably about 10 days later that she died.
Yeah, because I remember we were laying in bed and you got that phone call. It was about 11 o'clock at night, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then Crystal called me.
Yeah, Crystal called you and said that they had called her.
And said she'd passed.
And said she had passed. They said she had a coughing fit or something because she had COPD, right? Or no, she had pulmonary fibrosis.
Yeah, pulmonary fibrosis is what killed her. She also had COPD and
emphysema.
Yeah.
Them two kind of go hand in hand,
Yeah.
I think. They said she had a coughing fit and then she just couldn't recover, and that was it. She went out and they couldn't save her.
And before Mom died, I would go on these yearly trips with Tractor Supply, and she always wanted me to come see her before I left so that, just in case anything happened. And that day in particular, both my sisters actually showed up. And we were cleaning up the house for Mom and just kind of piddling around, spending some time with her. And she decided it would be the greatest time to give us these papers. Just basically, it was a DNR and just letting us know she had made her end-of-life choices and stuff like that. And Jenny and Crystal, they looked at them, but they were trying to avoid the papers. I actually sat and looked at them. And then I remember sitting on the couch and laying down, put my head on my mom's lap. And I could feel her teardrops hitting my cheek. And that's when I realized that she really was probably more sick than any of us kids wanted to admit to.
Now, was that after she got back from Kansas, or was that?
Yeah, it was between Kansas and when she went to the hospital.
She went to the hospital. So she probably knew more than what she went, and she was very good at that. Knowing a lot more than what she told people.
Yeah.
That is for sure. She was definitely a good secret keeper.
Just part of her charm.
It was. Bernie, you sexy senior.
Oh my gosh, she loved that so much.
I know.
From you.
She was such a character. But honestly, you think about it, 69 years old isn't that old.
It's not.
We're bumping up on our 50s, and that's not that.
I'm in my 50s.
Well, I was trying to be nice. You were significantly older than me.
Shush.
But, I mean, that's not that far away.
No, it's not. If you think about it, it's 18 years for me. I know.
The countdown is on. Everybody out there's going to be like, how is he even still married? Well, there's a lot of questions to that. My ex-wife could probably tell you why she isn't still married to me,
But to my mom, again, Tractor Supply actually was really good. They gave me some time off. I got to take some vacation time and spend with her. And so I got to have some really good conversations with her up there because she wasn't always, sleeping. There was a few days where she was up and she wouldn't be bopping around like we were used to, but she was up and we would talk and she would tell me some stories and, stuff I hadn't really known and other stories I'd heard numerous times, but it was always fun. And I think that she knew because she talked about Jeff a lot. And I remember her telling me that she knew that I was so jealous of her at that moment because she got to see Jeff again before I was getting ready to, before I could. So she knew that her time was coming. And the doctors had come in and had a conversation with her. And she kind of twisted it all around. She pretended like she didn't really get what the doctor was saying. She made it sound like he was saying, you're going to go home here pretty soon. And really, they were taking her to the long care place so that she could die. Because once you go there, you don't usually come back.
A lot of people don't, yeah. When it's that long-term facility, there's usually, unfortunately, it's for a lot of people that are going through end-of-life things.
Oddly enough, Dennis did come back to the hospital from there.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, because he died in the actual hospital.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember why they sent him back. I think he had something happen while he was there, and they had to send him back for something. I don't remember.
I can't even remember.
That one was so back and forth. It was just like, holy cow, we didn't know what to know. Or, you didn't know what to think or what was going to happen next. It was just so back and forth. It was craziness.
Yeah.
And so since then, and that was in 2015. And then...
I may be wrong. Has our parents been gone? Your dad's 7 years, and my mom getting ready to be 7 years? I hate to be wrong on something like that, but I feel like we are.
Boy, I don't remember. It's just been so much in really a short amount of time.
Yeah.
I mean, in a matter of 8 years, we lost our son, my dad that raised me, your stepdad, your mom, and then my biological dad.
Yeah.
And and all that in my mind, 8 years is pretty quick to lose that. I mean, I know you lose people as they get older, and that's going to happen in life, but one of those in my mind was an extremely significant loss, which is our son, and then losing my dad. That raised me was hard, and even when my biological father died, that was still pretty tough. Nothing compared to when our son passed, but and I know for you, losing your mom was very hard.
Yeah, it was. And, I think about my mom daily. I think about Nicholas daily, and just little things will pop in my head. And, I just would kill to have one more conversation with my mom. Even if it was her frustrating the crap out of me, I'd still love to just be like, Mom, you're driving me crazy, but I love you.
What are you doing? Stop.
I know.
Well, I think every one of us could say that. If you think back, I mean, I would love to have one more conversation, or have that message where he called me and leave me a message on my phone, or that one more talk with my dad, or that one more stopping by for lunch, or whatever it was. I think in any of them we could always want, and I think that's something that you're always going to feel, even as you go forward, and thank God your dad's still here, and I still have my mom. But I'm sure when they go, we're going to have that same thought: man, I wish I had one more. And I think that's something that everybody experiences in a loss, is they all wish they had one more something.
Yeah, your mom turned 76 on Thursday.
Yeah.
She will. And my dad just turned 78 in August. Mm-hmm. So, and coincidentally, Jeff was killed on Dad's 51st birthday.
Ain't that something?
Isn't that crazy? And they had called him, wanted him to go identify the body. But someone from a funeral home in Metamora was behind the accident. And they ended up being able to ID Jeff, so Dad didn't have to go do it.
We forgot one.
Who?
Pat Adair.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the only reason I remember that one is because she lost him on Mother's Day.
On Mother's Day, yeah. May 11th.
Yeah, he had a massive heart attack.
May 11th of 2011.
No,
2003.
Yeah, no, I'm like, no, it was way before that. Way before that.
Sorry.
I'm like, yeah, that one's way off. No.
Because Chloe wasn't a year yet.
No. Remember how she'd get upset? I miss Grandpa Pat. We're like, you didn't even know him.
It's because she has those pictures in her baby book, and he's in there holding
him. Yeah, he's in. I miss him. It's like, well, you probably do in a way, but you never met him. Well, you did, but you don't remember, I'm sure. Yeah, he was an interesting fella too, wasn't he?
Yeah.
God, that was another. Having to go up there in Moweaqua and having to move your mom back down here to East Peoria.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. The stuff we hauled out of that in a week.
That's when my mom knew that you and Scott loved her.
Yeah, because we spent an entire week doing it.
Or really loved her daughters.
Both.
Both.
Safe to say both. But, yeah, that was a crazy week. I just was like, oh, my God, I can't. Where is all this stuff going to go? Well, we had all those garage sales and storage units and all that other kind of stuff, but... So I think, in my mind, obviously for me, Nicholas was the most significant one. But I would probably say it's safe to bet that Nick and Jeff, to you, are probably about on the same. And not to diminish Nicholas as a loss for you, I'm just saying I think losing a sibling maybe not be on the scale of what's the most tragic. Losing a sibling maybe not be as bad as losing a child, but. It's got to be pretty doggone close.
Jeff was one of my favorite people in my life. He was married and had 3 kids when he died. But his brother-in-law got married the weekend before he died. And here I was, uber pregnant with Aaron. Brett was, I want to say, 10 months. So I'm walking around, 8.5 months pregnant with Aaron and carrying a 10-month-old baby on my hip. So people that I went to high school with were like, what are you doing? I'm like, I swear it's my brother's kid.
Oh, wow. He's only 10 months and you're already pregnant. What did you do?
Well,
Well, things happen.
Yeah, and I remember Jeff coming home from that wedding. And actually, it was the last time I seen him. And he was making fun of me because guys that I went to high school with were at that wedding. And they were like, what's going on with your sister? And he's like, oh my gosh, it's Brett. It's my son.
That's hilarious.
So he was sitting there teasing me, and he was kind of tipsy when he came home, and I was sitting there on the side of hot tub with my feet in when him and Jill went and sat in the hot tub, and he's just picking on me, which he did all the time.
I mean, you were kind of easy to pick on.
That was just him. He picked on all of us.
Did he? Mm-hmm. Not you the most?
I don't remember. I think he probably picked on Crystal quite a bit, just because she was young.
Yeah, she said he did pick on her quite a bit. Mm-hmm. That's kind of funny.
Yeah. But, you know, I'm the one that I was right after Jeff in high school, so I wasn't a popular kid. The only thing I had going for me was that I was Jeff McKinney's little sister. So, besides the fact that no one wanted to date me because they were afraid of him, but it kind of helped that, you know, I got to kind of ride on his shirt tails a little bit because he left the year before I came into high school.
Oh, did he really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when we lost Nick, did that bring up any feelings about when you lost your brother?
It did. I feel like with Jeff, I didn't really get to mourn him like I needed to. Aaron was really sick when I had him. You know, I had to concentrate on being pregnant still. And then when I had him, he was sick. I came home from the hospital without him for 3-4 days. Mm-hmm. And then when he was 6 weeks old, I had just went back to work. I'd only been back to work like 2 or 3 days. And he had been getting sick. We call it bazooka puking because every time we would feed him, he would throw up. And I took him to daycare, and I said, you know, you have to really be careful when he eats. He's throwing up a lot. And, you know, the doctor said there's nothing wrong with him. Well, then he lost like 6 or 8 ounces within a couple days. So then they realized what was wrong with him, and it was called pyloric stenosis. So his pylorus muscle was too big. It like regulates how the food comes down, evidently. So his was too big. It was like pushing everything back up.
Okay.
So when he was 7 weeks old, 7-8 weeks old, we had to have surgery on him. And so I didn't really get to concentrate on Jeff at all. But once we had Aaron home and he was better after his surgery, I remember sitting up, that's when they had MTV videos on still.
Oh, yeah.
I was sitting up there feeding him in the living room, just rocking him back and forth. And this REM song came on called Everybody Hurts.
Oh, yeah.
And I kind of just like, just decided to myself, I got to sit here. I got to quit sitting here feeling sorry for myself. I got to pull my big girl pants up and get on with life. And that right then, that stupid song, which I still love that song, was kind of a turning point for me. I realized that I am a strong person and I can deal with life. And that's kind of what got the ball rolling in my mind, that I was finally going to, if one more big thing happened, I knew I was going to walk away from my marriage. And the following January, a big thing happened and I walked away.
That was it. You were done.
I was done.
And so you didn't get to grieve Jeff the way you wanted to. And so fast forward then, because the next big loss, I think,
was Nick.
Nick. And so what feelings do you think came up about losing your brother when that happened?
I think I just wanted to kind of feel sorry for myself again a little bit. You know, I didn't get to grieve him, but it had been so long at that point too, though. I mean, Nick's been gone. So Jeff was gone 17 years. So it just kind of brought back the memories and the what ifs. You know, I had a lot of what if questions in my head. You know, and at that point, Jeff would have been in his 40s, probably early 40s. And so it, you know, where would he be then? You know, what would our relationship be like? You know, his kids would have had their dad still and everything. And that part always bothered me, that Jessica, Lauren, and Brett didn't have their dad anymore. So just odd feelings, you know, not anything that's like really significant, but just odd feelings to me that, you know, here this is yet another big loss in my life, and God, am I ever going to catch a break? You know, I didn't give birth to Nicholas, but he was still my son.
Oh, yeah. I think,
you know,
yeah, that was never in question. I think, you know, all 4 of his parents.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, me and his mom aren't married, and she remarried, and their stepdad was a absolute fantastic father to him, you know, and so, I mean, they felt that, we all felt it.
The one thing I do remember thinking, though, is that I knew that Nick was in good hands. Although Jeff never met him, you know, I do feel that there are people that they watch us, and I think he would have been proud of the way that I was in my life. Mm-hmm. You know, I met you, I'd married well. I mean, not well, like money-wise, but I married a good dude.
Yeah, good dude.
You know,
pretty good dude.
And to see, how we had blended our families, and I think he would have been really proud of me for doing that. I'm the only one in my family besides my parents that have been divorced. So that was, a thing. And I think if to see the way my life ended up, I think he, even now, would still be very proud of me.
You're also the only one in your family, besides your parents, that have lost a child.
Yes. My mom never recovered from that, though. And I remember her telling me, life will go on, but you will never be the same person you were as the day before you lost Nicholas. And I would think that's true.
Oh, absolutely. I've told people I'm not the same person I was beforehand.
No.
You never will, but you can't be. That's too great of a loss.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, there's a big part of you, and you said something to me one time, and you told me, I feel like a part of you was buried with him, and you were right. There was. And as much as I may want that back, you can't get it back.
Right.
Because you can't get the loss back.
No, you can't. And my mom and dad both changed a lot after Jeff died. My dad lives in Pontiac, so I didn't see him that much. But just the way he would talk and stuff was a lot different. And to lose your only son on your birthday, that's pretty big.
Yeah.
And we didn't celebrate Dad's birthday for maybe 10, 11 years.
Well, it's hard to celebrate because you're supposed to celebrate on a day that's the most tragic day out there. So
yeah,
I get that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I do.
Yeah, but he never wanted to. He didn't. I mean, us girls would call him, but he didn't want us necessarily to go up and see him or anything. And we definitely didn't have any parties. And I remember, I think it was when he turned 62, maybe, that we finally went up and had a dinner with him. So, were you and I together yet? Then? No, we weren't together yet.
When he turned 60,
we were
62. Your dad was.
My timelines are getting all mixed up.
Well, we've been together 20 years.
Yeah.
And so he would have been 57.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So I remember he still had his hot rod car, and we used to go golfing all the time.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm. He does every day because I think he had just retired or was getting ready to retire.
I can't remember. I know that he had to retire because of his arm, I think, when he had split his bicep.
Yeah. Because he wasn't, I don't remember him working back then. I think he did some side jobs or something, but I don't think he even liked to do a lot of that anymore after that.
No, well, drywall's hard on you.
Yeah, it's hard on you. I mean, I don't know. Once I retire, I'm not really looking to work anywhere.
You don't want to do a side drywall business or anything?
No. I don't want to do anything. I want to travel and go on our boat. That's what I want to do. And I don't want to work at all. I want to pay somebody to do the work for me because I'm lazy.
Well, I'm kind of there with you. So.
Yeah, I'm tired of working hard. I worked hard for a lot of years. I still work hard, but not in the same way. And honestly, we're in a lot different place than we were, 20 years ago when all our little heathens were at home and eating us out of house and home. Yeah, that was some craziness back then.
Who was? Oh, I was just talking to the neighbor yesterday about all the milk we used to go through.
Yeah,
and how they go through the same amount.
Yeah, 5 to 6 gallons a week. Yeah, and all the freaking Tony's Party pizzas that we go through every week. It's like, good God, they never stop. And funny story. You're talking about Aaron is his what was that? The surgery he had.
Oh, pyloric stenosis.
Pyloric stenosis. Well, he's more than made up for that over the years.
Yeah.
My God, that kid is a bucket mouth, man. He can eat constantly.
Let me tell you, in the day, though, it was disgusting.
Well, after living with him for all these years and smelling some of the farts and stuff he's had, it is disgusting.
Poor Aaron.
No, poor Aaron. Or it's like Aaron.
Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron.
Who, in fact, turns 27 tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah. He's going to be the big 27.
Our big birthday boy.
Yeah. We got a 31-year-old, a 27-year-old, a 25-year-old. Nicholas would have been 22. Yeah, 22. And then Chloe just turned the big 18.
Yep. We are this close to empty nesters.
Yep, we got about 1 year to go. Well, we got more than that. She's going to college. And then we'll never be. We got an 11-year-old grandson, a 10-year-old grandson, a 8-year-old granddaughter.
No, we have 3 7-year-old granddaughters. Annabelle will be 8
in
in
November. Yeah. Well, let's just talk birthdays. 11, 10, 8, 7, 7, 4, and 3. That's our grandkids. Boy, girl, girl, girl,
Boy.
boy.
Arthur makes up for a lot, though. He is all boy.
I was so exhausted after watching them the other day. Jesus, where did...
That was so much fun.
I know, it was fun, but how do we do that with 5 kids?
Papa K.
Papa K. Papa K. Go outside. Yeah, we'll go outside. Come on.
You know, when the kids were little, though, it was just second nature to us. You know, well, that we were a heck of a lot younger back then, too.
Well, we were. We were a heck of a lot younger back then. I wonder what Nicholas would be like today.
Well, probably just as crazy as he was at 11.
Well, that ain't no kidding. He was so
I think our family would be a lot different if Nicholas was still here. You know, I think we'd still have all the grandkids that we have.
Oh, yeah. I don't have no
I wouldn't
doubt
want to
about
give those guys up for anything, but maybe a couple more, or he would have taken the college route.
or just enjoyed his nieces and nephews and said, screw that.
Remember how much he loved Isaac, though?
He did.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, he loved Isaac. He loves little sister Chloe, too.
I always wonder how tall he'd be.
I know, because he wasn't very tall.
Yeah, but he was only 11.
Well, yeah, but there's other 11-year-olds who were a lot taller than he was.
But think about it this way. Remember how tall Aaron got between his junior year and his senior year? Like that summer, he sprouted up. Big time.
Yeah, I went through 3 shoe sizes in that summer. I was like, good God, I can't afford to buy you shoes. Just quit growing.
He grew like 4 or 5 inches over the summer.
I mean, he like sprouted up.
And I think he's now, what, 6'1"?
6'1", yeah.
Yeah, so you never know. Nicholas could have.
He could have.
Or even been as tall as Andrew. Andrew's 5'10".
Yeah, Andrew's right there. I think he's just about as tall as I am now. I'm shrinking.
That's
Well, height-wise, not in the belly area. Yeah, I wonder what he looked like today. You know, I always have that thought in the back of my head because I've seen some of the kids that he used to run around with. And, you know, because in our mind, Nicholas is always that little 11-year-old boy. Mm-hmm. And then you see these kids and you're like, oh, my God.
Remember we seen the boy that used to live down the street a few weeks ago?
Yeah, and he's, 6'4", deep voice,
He's a man now. And Nicholas would have been a man now.
Yeah, because he was, a year or two older, Nick.
I think he was right smack between Andrew and Nicholas.
Yeah, so he's just a little bit older, but still, I mean, Nick would be 22. He'd be full grown. Mm-hmm. Or he could be short like his mom.
No, I think he would have been tall because he was in a growth spurt, so.
Yeah, he was starting to, remember he wore the same pair, or not the same pair, but we didn't have to buy him jeans for a couple of years because he didn't grow. So the jeans, he was fitting finally. The one year we had to get him some new jeans because they still fit the waist, but they finally got too short for him.
Yep.
Because he started getting long-legged.
And he wore the same basketball shorts all the time.
All the time. Well, that's the ones he's buried in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the Whitney Walk shirt, that green Whitney Walk shirt in that picture right over there.
Yeah.
He was buried in that.
Yeah.
Good-looking kid. You know, I think he looks like his mother.
He does look like his mom, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
She's a beautiful girl. He's a good-looking boy.
Yeah.
You guys made a good-looking couple kids.
We did. We made a good-looking kid.
Oh, yeah, we definitely have a good-looking kid.
No doubt. She's kind of a big deal. You know, she's a Festival Lights queen 2 years in a row. Nobody gets to do that ever.
Thank God for the pandemic, huh?
Right, yeah. That's about the only good thing coming out of this damn pandemic.
Yeah.
So.
No, but you know what? You know how I was saying that I think that Jeff would look down and be proud of me? I think Nicholas now would look down and be proud of us. Maybe us being stupid for a few years, he wouldn't have. But I think the family life we have now and how strong our marriage is now, he loved us being together. He loved us being married. You know, he drove you crazy until you proposed to me that day.
Yeah.
You know, I think he is looking down and is proud of us that we've came through a lot and are stronger now than we probably...
Been in a while.
Yeah, well, yeah, probably since before he died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He used to play that system, too, that little kid. Remember how he'd ride the bus home to our house and call Marty and have him pick him up after school so he didn't have to walk home when it was cold? Or if he knew Marty was going to make his fried chicken, he'd walk over to their house and call, can I have dinner? Marty's making fried chicken. I said, that's fine.
It's because Marty's fried chicken is legendary.
It is legendary. It's amazing. They used to crack me up. I'm like, what are you doing here, Nick? I rode the bus here. I'm going to have Marty pick me up. It's cold outside. I'm like, you got to give him credit. He's smart.
Well, yeah.
And Marty get a kick out of it, too. I always laugh.
Nicholas.
Yeah, he was like, God. They're good kids. Yeah, that was probably the hardest one. For sure. I mean, that one is the one that, you know, still carries with us to this day. more so than the rest for sure.
Well, and Jeff was young. He was 29 when he died, but he has still lived some life. Our parents dying, yeah, it was hard, but they lived a life.
Right.
They got to do all the things that, you're supposed to be able to do. And that's the part that's hard for Nicholas, besides all the rest of it, is he didn't really get to do anything.
Right.
He had just kissed his first girl, 2 weeks before?
Yeah.
Something like that, so he didn't get to live his life, but everybody else that we've lost did, It sucks that Jeff was so young and his kids were young. I couldn't imagine losing any of the kids now. I don't know if I would be able to survive. I'd have a complete breakdown, I think, if something happened with the kids now. But
yeah, that'd be awful. I mean, there's no... I don't know. I mean, I don't think about stuff like that.
I'm a little bit more morbid than you are, though.
Well, I don't think you can plan for that stuff because, no. I mean, yes, you can buy life insurance. Yes, you can do all that kind of stuff. But I mean, you plan for your parents. You plan for, the elderly, your grandparents, that kind of stuff, your aunts and uncles that get older and pass away. You plan for that or not even plan, but you're mentally more emotionally prepared for that. A youth or a child or a grandchild, you don't think about that. That's not a thought that goes into people's minds. You don't want them to get hurt. You worry about them getting hurt, especially in today's day and age, how crazy it is out here. You worry about that kind of stuff, but you don't have thoughts in your head of them actually passing away, especially not the way that we lost Nicholas, or especially not in the way that your mom lost Jeff.
Right. Your
mom and dad. So they're just so shocking to your system. I remember, after doing that work on Nicholas in that room, and the ambulance get there and they picked him up and scooped him out and ran him out the door. And I just remember that stuck in my head, that vision, of his eyes rolling the back of his head, him turning blue, and I'm trying to do that CPR on him. I just couldn't get nothing to go in. And I just remember me thinking, man, this is bad. And then I know the one paramedic from up the road came in and he wasn't having any luck either. And, but when we finally got there and then we were sitting in that room watching him, working him, and I'm sitting there thinking, man, as they're doing the chest compressions and all this stuff they're doing, I'm thinking, man, if he comes through this, there's going to be a lot of healing. Because I'm thinking there's broken ribs, there's all these things happening. I wasn't thinking about him not making it through it.
Right.
And then when the doctor came up and said we had to call it, that's, I think, when the reality finally settled in. It's like, wow.
Yeah, he was right in the middle of having the conversation with us when they got his heart started again.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember getting ready to tell him, well, then go ahead and stop. Because I knew at that point probably wasn't going to be any chance of him surviving regardless.
Right. But I think when his heart started back in the trauma room, he was telling us then, his heart is strong. I went through some trauma, but his heart is strong. So then when we did pull the plug and his heart didn't stop beating.
No, it didn't.
That's when I knew the kid was made for greatness. And that is the thing that he didn't do himself, but he did himself. He didn't make the decision, but he was the strong one with his heart that helped us make the decision to donate his organs.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think his, because I remember the doctor telling us, we need to make a decision on taking him off some of the support that he was on, and we just told him, well, we could take him off all the medication, but we weren't going to take him off the ventilator because at that point none of us were prepared for that, and they had told us probably within a few hours his heart would stop beating after the medication was ended, and 8 hours later his heart was still beating. So we're like, well, that's when the new doctor came in and said, listen, and we had, in the between times, we had made the decision to go ahead and donate his organs. So we had let the hospital know that he was going to be an organ donor.
Yeah.
But I remember that new doctor coming in and he said, I believe in doing all or none. He goes, so either you take him off all of it. He goes, I understand you want him to be an organ donor. We said, yes, we do. He goes, then let me put him back on everything and let me keep his body as healthy as we can, keep those organs as healthy as we can until we can find recipients. And we were like, okay. So that's what we did. And then we stayed there an extra day because of that.
Yeah.
While they got the recipients lined up. And I remember how great the staff was in the hospital.
My favorite nurse was that male nurse.
Did I tell you that story about him? When I did the brain death clinic last year?
Oh, he was in there.
Yeah, yeah. That was his first shift in that department after he got hired at St. Francis.
Oh, wow.
His very first shift.
Yeah, he was my favorite.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Amazing. And he said after that night, that changed him forever, the way he conducts himself and does his nursing.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he came up and told me, he goes, I was your nurse. Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know, I was like, it's a small world.
Yeah.
You know, it's a small world.
You know, back when I was married to my first husband, his dad had trouble with his kidneys. I forget what it's called. But anyway, he had to have a kidney transplant.
It was a dialysis. Is that what you're thinking of? Or?
No, it's...
Well, not that it matters.
Yeah, I'll think of it after this is all said and done.
Right.
But anyway, Art had to have a kidney transplant. And ever since he had his kidney transplant, I was an organ donor after that. Because my kids got to have their grandpa for a few more years because of that. And I just remember the next time I upped my license, I was a donor from then on out.
You know, I'd never really thought about it.
Yeah.
I'd never even thought about it, and you're the one that mentioned it, and we're all just like, well, yeah, well, it makes sense. We're going to do that. But I really had never thought about it.
Yeah, and Art's the reason that I became one. Because I figure if something that's so amazing can, help my kids have their grandpa for a few more years, then why not help another, grandparent or, kids have their grandparents.
Well, yeah, why wouldn't you?
So I don't need them.
Yeah, well, that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, when I'm gone, if it can save a life and give somebody else a chance, hey, heck yeah, why wouldn't you?
So that's why I always was. I don't know if I ever told you that before or not.
No, I think that's the first time you ever told me that. Why are you holding out on me?
I don't know.
Uh-huh. After all this time,
this is getting me to have all my feels, I guess.
You got your feels?
I got my feels going.
You got your feels. That's good. Yeah, and I think, let's see, your mom was an organ donor.
Mm-hmm.
And
Dennis was.
Dennis was an organ donor. Do you know if Jeff was or not? Well, No, he couldn't be.
I don't think he could be.
Yeah.
It was a pretty horrific accident.
Yeah, pretty the way the accident went. And then Nicholas was. I don't think either one of my old men were. I don't think so.
I think when your birthday, didn't they use his corneas or something? No, hang on. They used my mom's corneas. I do remember they used my mom's corneas.
Because my bio dad, they couldn't, or my stepdad, they could because he had so much cancer, and then he didn't have corneas anymore. He had that cataract surgery. So he didn't have his corneas anymore. And then, I'd have to ask Greg. I really don't remember if my bio dad was an organ donor or not. That age group's a tough one.
It is.
Not a lot of them want to do that.
Yeah, because they don't really understand the science and stuff behind it.
Well, and they're afraid that, the doctors don't take care of you good enough and all that, and that's completely not true. But
my mom became an organ donor after Nicholas died.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually did a talk at this church over in Peoria, and then that's where I met that Carrie girl. Remember I told you about her? She was a double lung recipient.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And anyway, we were talking there, and it was a mixed group of age group, but there's some elderly, there's some middle-aged people, and then some young people in there too. And I shared my story about Nicholas, and I had one of the elderly people come up and say, because of your story, I'm going to register to become a donor.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is highly unusual because, like I said, typically your elderly people have a lot of fear about that, because there is a lot of fear-mongering with that because people are afraid I'm not going to be as taken care of and stuff like that. And that's obviously not the case, but I always thought that was kind of an interesting thing.
Well, even after when we were there at OSF and we told them that Nick was going to be an organ donor, they still treated him. So, I remember one nurse coming in and combing his hair, out of his eyes a little bit, and she would talk to him. And to me, they gave him just as much respect before they knew as they did after. Yeah, they did. They treated him like he was a patient that was going to recover. Although everybody in that floor knew he was not. Yeah. Remember, he wanted me to paint his toenails purple like a couple days beforehand, and Had he gotten his way, his toenails would have been purple when he died. Instead, they were just dirty from him playing.
That's funny. Well, I remember Marty standing there saying under normal circumstances I wouldn't touch these feet, but considering because Nicholas's feet were always so filthy.
Oh, and he had played so hard that day.
Oh, he had to. He had had a busy, busy day.
And God forbid him want to actually take a shower.
When you finally did, then he was in there for like an hour and a half. It's like, Nick, what are you doing? It just feels so good. Get out. You're like...
So if you took one daily, they'd probably feel just as good, just shorter.
Yeah, you're like 85 pounds. There's not that much of you to wash.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that little turkey.
The steam be rolling out of that bathroom.
So we've had a lot of loss, babe.
We have.
That's a lot. I bet there's people out there that had it worse, though.
Yeah. I just read an article yesterday. A mom and 3 kids were in an accident the day I was home, I guess. And so he lost his wife and 2 of his children in an accident. And the boy, the one, I don't know what the age of the boy, but he was barely holding on. So, I mean, not that
Wow.
losing one is hard enough. I couldn't imagine losing 3/4 of your family.
No, but, you know, to your mom's point, you do have to learn to keep living. Because there's still memories out there to be made. You still have other members of your family that love you and that you love. Mm-hmm. And it's still okay to smile.
It is.
You know, and we do a lot of laughing in this family and smiling, and sometimes we're hungover after all of it. But,
But that's okay.
That's okay. But, you know, it's taken a long time to learn. I mean, that was really hard for me there for a couple of years. Just, man, I hated living.
I know.
I hated it.
You hate it less now, right?
Well, yeah, I know the answer to that question. Okay. I'm not stupid.
No, it's a serious question.
I don't hate living now. I hated it in the first couple of years just because it was so hard.
Right.
And it wasn't that I didn't love the kids and didn't love you or any of that kind of stuff. It was just, it was such a hard loss. I hated and it wasn't that I wanted to kill myself or stop living.
No.
I hated having the pain every single day.
Because you had such a heavy weight on your heart at all times.
Yeah, and I hated it, you know, and that's the part that I hated. And it was like, I just didn't know how to learn. I mean, it took me that long to learn how to at least semi-function with that loss there. Mm-hmm. But for a couple of years, man, I just hated it, you know. It just, I didn't like it, you know. And, I mean, I still have that heavy loss sometimes. Mm-hmm. It's not as prevalent as it used to be, obviously. I mean, I think about him every single day, and the loss is just as fresh today as it was back then. But, you know, I've learned to adapt, I think, and adjust my life to that. And I think you've done the same thing. You've had to. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what we do, you know.
You know, people say, you know, you just got to get over it. Well, there's no just getting over it. You learn to live with it. There's a huge difference. You learn your day by day, but you never get over it. You can pretend like you do, quote unquote, but you never get over the loss and you never will.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Well, and I was thinking another question too, though, to that point of what you're saying there, though, because you had mentioned how you've never really been able to feel like you've grieved for your brother. Do you think losing Nicholas and working through that grief, do you think it's helped you kind of work through some of the grief you still carried with your brother?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the one thing about when Jeff died is, I mean, I've always been close with my sisters, but my sisters, Jenny and Crystal, they are my very best friends. And I don't know if I would have grown to be like that. You know, I've always loved them so much. I mean, they're everything to me, but now, I mean, those are my best friends. But losing Jeff is kind of triggered that in me to let me learn to be free with my love. You know, before I was a little bit more uptight. And I think after he died, I was able to be free. And then after Nicholas died, being able to let Jeff go in that sense, I did. You know, I grieved them both at the same time, but Jeff was easier to let go because it had been so many years. And he had lived a pretty decent life. You know, he was successful in his career. He had a great family. You know, they lost him, but he had great success. And I look at that part too.
That makes sense. I think it does. You know, well, I figure we got whatever time we got left with my mom and your dad. And then
Hopefully it's quite a while.
I'm hoping so. I figure my mom's cantankerous enough. She'll probably stay around just to aggravate me for as long.
You met my dad, right?
Yeah, right. Dude, she's going to stay around as long as she can just to aggravate the hell out of me. I know what she's going to do.
I think Dad's just going to stick around to bug Debbie.
Oh, yeah.
Because God loved Debbie.
Oh, boy, I can tell you what, yeah, that woman's golden. She is golden because she puts up with a lot. She cracks me up.
Yeah, she's a good egg.
She is a good egg. So what do you think, babe? Is this a good place to stop?
I think so, yeah. Hopefully
Yeah.
I did okay.
Well, I think you did great. We're just having a conversation. That's the whole thing. I don't script anything. It's fly by the seat of the pants.
I know, it kind of throws me off.
Hey, I'm not a scripted guy. That's not the way it works, you know.
No.
Conversations come easier if you're just having them instead of trying to force them, right?
This is true.
And unfortunately, this is a subject that we're both very good at.
Yeah.
And know plenty about. So, on this note, we'll go ahead and end this episode of We All Grieve. Thank you for being on the show, Babs.
Thanks for having me there, honey.
Okay, so we're going to go watch some TV now.
Okay.
All right, and so listen, everybody. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to the podcast. If you would, please leave comments, like it, subscribe to it, give me some ideas for improvement or some things you may want to hear about. And until next time, peace.